All right, welcome to SFL This Week. Let's start the countdown clock as we are ready for tonight's major matchup. It is going to be a great one. Mr. St. Green, Minnesota, and Florida, two of the top four teams in the standings. And it's a great way to cap off Week 14. You know, we did not have a single Monday night flex this season until obviously Week 15. We didn't know what the big-time matchup was going to be, but I think that's a first in league history, so we're super proud of that.
Cam, I tell you what, we couldn't have a better matchup than Minnesota and Florida to flex into this situation this week. Two teams that are vying for that bye, that all important bye, and Arizona losing this week has really opened the door for one of these two teams to step right in and pick up that playoff bye heading into the playoffs.
And Arizona's not done with their first round bye. Potentially, they will join Baltimore and the loser of this game in the 3-loss club, but Arizona's on a bye next week, so they have to sit and wait to see what happens. More on Arizona and the updated playoff picture later, but first, Mike, how was your football weekend?
Well, weekend was pretty good, Cam. My college team was off, my pro team won, and my sim team won, so it was all pretty good this weekend.
I tell you what, those Texan shoulder stripes, I'm really liking those. The horns off the side. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I like the new design. The blue is a little dark for me, but I like the whole design and concept of the uniforms that they came up with.
So just to follow up from last week, did you catch Arizona's uniforms this week?
Yeah, and it took me all game to figure out what they were doing, and you're 100% right. Neither one of us liked it.
I liked it a little more than I thought I would, but yeah.
No, I didn't get it. It took me the whole game to trying to figure out what that stripe was. I'm like, what is that? Some type of Lord of the Rings thing? I didn't know what was going on.
It's a Mortal Kombat thing. Do you played Mortal Kombat? The Scorpion King.
The Scorpion. Oh, okay.
Where he pulls them in with the
But see, you shouldn't have a uniform where it takes all game for someone to figure out what you got going on. That's all I'm saying.
There you go, Greg. We may not. We're just two simple guys that like a nice double stripe, right, Mike?
It might be a familiar who wore it best this weekend.
It's not going to be in there.
Well, it's going to be a familiar who wore it best this week.
Okay, all right. Well, we got a good uniform matchup.
Yeah, someone near and dear to my heart. But anyway.
Okay, all right. Well. That's all we have to catch up on. Now it's time to catch you up on the highlights. And even though the schedule was light, we had some incredible games. This one on Carolina's opening drive, Matt South can't make a tackle, and Nate Heslop's going all the way back to the house. And all I could think of, Mike, was, oh boy, it's going to be one of these games for Carolina.
Yeah, this game was a head scratcher for me from the Carolina standpoint, Cam. They pretty much dominated the field of play for the most part, yardage and things of that sort, but they could never put that knockout punch on Lexington. The turnovers really hurt them pretty badly in this game.
Riley Quintero gets them on the board, makes it 7-7, executing on the inside, and then Riley Quintero once again is into the end zone. Quintero leads the league in rushing touchdowns, and he tacked on more in this one. But then, this was the crazy thing about this game, Mike. That was on 2nd and 10 for Carolina. Ready? Look at the board. 2nd and 10 in the third quarter, up 1, and Matt South does it again. He throws another interception. That face mask did not wipe away the turnout. Now look at Lexington, 2nd and 10. Down 14-13, and Kenny Slider is picked off by Danny Stinson. So it was second down was crazy in this game for both offenses, really poor. Matt South, 1st and 10. It'll be fine. No, this was a disastrous game for Matt South, and after all he's done over the last month, Mike, he went right back to where he was. It was a shame.
Yeah, it really was, Cam. And one piece of advice I'm going to have for these teams: stay out of 2nd and 10. But anyway, but yeah, it was really a step back for Carolina, and it's really kind of this disappointing, really, just from a fan's point of view, is that I feel like they have a good team. I feel like they should probably be in the playoffs, but
well, watch this. 4th and 10 on a punt, a fake punt, and Lexington gets it. Because, people at home are probably saying, well, Mike, what do you mean it's a step back? They're up 21-20, but Lexington basically saved the game and their season on that fake punt, and then under 10 seconds to go, perfect execution for Lexington. They get into field goal range to kick the game winner. What'd you think about that fake punt?
A fake punt was an excellent call right there at that particular time. But and we're going to see here the kick that's going to, right down the center of the uprights to give Lexington a win and more than likely a playoff bid.
Well, we would have if I wouldn't have hit the wrong button, but that's the way it goes. Anyway, Lexington does get the game-winning field goal, and they win 23-21 after a drive started deep in their own territory. They fake the punt on 4th and 10. They get down the field. They get to 7-5. They go into their bye week feeling pretty confident. They have not guaranteed themselves a playoff spot. It is technically possible for 13 teams to get to 7 wins. And if that happens, Lexington could end up on the outside looking in, although that wouldn't be very good for Carolina. And what that would mean, Mike, is it would mean huge upsets this week because Nashville takes on Mexico City, Atlanta takes on Florida. So these 6-5 teams have some really tough games, and it could really leave things wide open. Lexington's got to feel pretty good about being at 7-5 right now.
Yeah, I think they should feel pretty good about where they are, because here's the thing: at least I'm at 7-5, and I have a fighting chance to win any playoff tiebreaker situations or scenarios. But I'd rather be sitting at 7-5 and looking at everyone else trying to scramble next week, as opposed to trying to get to that 7-win mark next weekend.
Carolina had 24 first downs. They had, or I think it was 28 first downs. 28 first downs. They were 13 of 14 on third down. They had almost 400 yards of offense, and they lose this game because they lost the turnover battle 5-1. The amount of ways that Carolina can lose a game is depressing. It's just, you feel so bad for them. I mean, they had it right there. They have Indianapolis. That's the easiest game of the 6-5 teams next week, just based on overall record. But we know that Indy is a competent team, and they can beat anybody at any point. But if you're at Carolina, how do you bounce back from this? How do you feel like your season didn't just end on a fake punt on 4th and 10?
Yeah, I would like to say get back to the things that got you there, the things that helped you beat a team like Baltimore, the things that helped you beat Charleston a few weeks ago, and you really look like you were on a roll. But yeah, you got to get things straight with Matt South, get rid of that interception bug, and that's what I meant by they were up in the game late, but minus the red zone turnovers and the inopportune times that they did throw the interceptions, that game really shouldn't have been close, Cam, and that's going to be the one game, if they do not make the playoffs, they're going to look back and kick themselves on.
I would be right into situation mode looking at 1st and 2nd down, because why are you in 2nd and 10? Well, 1st and 10 didn't get you anything, right? So something's going on with 2nd and 10. And something's going on 1st down, too, because your 3rd down offense is immaculate. 13 of 14 on 3rd down is unbelievable. So that to me, Mike, it all felt like, man, if they just would have shown Lexington something different. And look, kudos to Lexington. It was obvious that Lexington scouted Carolina, very well. And they had their number, forced them into 2nd and long, and that really was Carolina's downfall for much of the day.
Yeah, it really was. And yeah, as you mentioned, kudos to Lexington, and that just kind of triggered a thought as of right now, the way the playoff picture is gonna look. We're gonna actually look at that a little bit later. 3 either new or relocated franchises are in position to make the playoffs right now. That's incredible. The new blood has come in and really made a statement to the rest of the league.
Yeah, they have done well for themselves for sure. Well, that wasn't the only incredible game this week. Let's get to Houston, where the Louisiana Revolution took on the Houston Headhunters, and DR Sims says, Mike St. Green, hold my beer, because I'm going to the end zone on a special teams touchdown.
Yeah, Cam, I think he was imitating me on this play here, but yeah, DSM, he has breakaway speed, and obviously he's a Hall of Famer, so he great punt return there for DR.
Second and goal, Cameron Collier gets in to tie the game at 7 for the Revolution, and they're right back in this thing. Halfway through the second quarter, O.J. Bruin out due to suspension in this one, so Shane Matthews was the quarterback for Houston. He gets hit, and Brian Craven comes up with an immaculate interception as he's falling down. Tommy Utah turns that in to a beautiful throw later in the game to Ziggy Roenick. Fast forward to the fourth quarter, we're tied at 13, and this is when Louisiana's offense started to come alive just like they did last week.
Yeah, Cam, and Ziggy Roenick, he was a big part of that. He had 4 huge catches in the second half that really put Louisiana in great shape in this ball game.
Tommy Utah to Adam Banks gets the touchdown. Louisiana goes up 20-13. Ziggy Roenick had all 4 of those catches after Kingston Ellington got hurt. Second and goal, 3:07 to go in the fourth quarter, and Matthews fires to the end zone. He is picked off by Tommy Brock Bussey, and you thought with 3 minutes to go down 7, this game was over, but the defense got the stop for the Headhunters, and then Israel Adams happened.
Israel Adams, he came through great in the second half as well, Cam, with a huge touchdown right here to give the Headhunters an opportunity to tie the ball game.
That took it to overtime because Sonny J did tie the ball game, and Houston has been money in overtime in the last few weeks. They've been money in the fourth quarter, whether it's O.J. Bruin or Shane Matthews at quarterback, and Tommy Utah wishes he had this one back. It would have been a 38-yard field goal, but Utah throws it away as Houston had blanket coverage.
A great play there by Ingram III. You kind of question Louisiana's play calling right there, but hey, Houston took advantage of the interception.
Houston 6 yards further back gets a Josh Slap run, his best run of the night, and that gets them into comfortable field goal range, and that brings out Sonny J. And this game felt like a repeat of the Indianapolis win when Houston came back to take that one from the Ramblers. Sonny J with the field goal. It's good, and more incentive money for Sonny. 23-20, the Houston Headhunters beat the Louisiana Revolution in overtime and keep their playoff hopes alive. We were doing it before the show, Mike, looking at all the scenarios and situations of can Houston make the playoffs? And in fact, there is a path. It is a small one, but there is a path. Despite the roller coaster season, you were on the field for much of the game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so you're saying there's a chance. I've heard that somewhere before, But this game, Cam, definitely had playoff intensity to it. Both teams needed this win very badly. Of course, Louisiana wanted to get to that 6-win mark. Houston, obviously, we knew with a loss, 7 wins, we were eliminated. Just playoff intensity pretty much the whole time. Israel Adams came up huge with 8 and 137, and we saw that game tying touchdown. MSG, as I must say so myself, I don't know why didn't I make the highlight? I had 111 yards catching, receiving. Cam, how did I get missed in the highlights?
I think we've seen enough.
And then DRSM with the huge kick return at that particular time when the offense was kind of struggling in the first half, and then Josh Slap came through big as well in the running game late in the fourth quarter. Houston, we had a hard time getting the running game going, but they did come through late in the fourth to really kind of balance out the offensive attack, and we saw Shane Matthews step in nicely for O.J. Bruin and really gave Houston one of the best offensive performances they've had all season.
Louisiana had won 3 of 4. They just pulled off a miracle win over Nashville, who's trying to get into the playoffs. They have Motor City next week, and so you're just thinking Louisiana really could do it. They have the easiest schedule left just in terms of overall record. And Tommy Utah didn't have a pick until 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. He actually had played a really nice game. Louisiana made a lot of clutch catches. They weren't able to pull out the win. From your perspective, just what happened before the interceptions that kind of kept the game within reach for Houston?
Louisiana really, the passing game that they showed last night, it really surprised me. They, as you mentioned, Tommy Utah was efficient. Kingston Ellington was great before he was injured. Ziggy Roenick filled in nicely once he came in, made a couple of huge catches. Even the running game was pretty solid for majority of the game. The defense did step up. Houston's defense did step up in some key moments. We got some third down plays that, to get Louisiana off the field. So the defense pretty much kept us close. The offense didn't make too many mistakes. We moved the ball enough to kind of switch field position, and it was kind of a field position game for quite a bit there, and that pretty much kept us close. Louisiana, they struggled to score points. They've done it all season long, and we saw a little bit of that last night, and then we saw Al Ingram, and I want to say Barnhart made an interception in that game, if I'm not mistaken, that pretty much turned the tide in Houston's way.
All right, so Houston stays alive. Louisiana's at 5-6, but they have the lowest SOV amongst 6 lost teams, so their playoff hopes are pretty much finished. Not mathematically finished, but pretty much finished. All right, let's move on to Canada, where Arizona was not at Denver. Arizona was at Vancouver, so let's get that queued up for you. My apologies. Arizona was at Vancouver. Let's try again. 9-2 versus 3-7. Now, Sean Moore gets this interception here. Get over here with the interception. 3-3 to start the second quarter. Arizona starts to get it rolling. Ashley Jackson fires it out to Bismarck Wright. This was an excellent tackle by Ron Hoff in the open field. His second stop inside the 5 in as many weeks. Pseudo Nakai takes it into the end zone. Vancouver leads Arizona 10-6 late in the first half. Vancouver, wow, that was a lot of red paint. I think he used the whole bucket. Vancouver has been playing great teams tough all season long. It just hasn't been able to get over the hump. They were putting up a real good fight in this one. 3rd down and goal. Arizona's up or down 4, and Brad Jones gets into the end zone for the score. 13-10 late in the third. Arizona is in control, but Christian Brown finds Nick Lockett. That is a beautiful throw and even a better catch.
A great catch by Nick Lockett. He's done a great job since getting that third wide receiver spot midway through the season.
Mateo Bravado on the handoff, and then Christian Brown on 2nd down and goal with 3 minutes to go. A draw. Look at this. Is just all effort by Ike McBride. What a brilliant run. That may be the best 1-yard run of the season to put Vancouver ahead of Arizona 17-13. The Scorpions on 4th and 3 with 39 seconds left, 35 yards away and needing a touchdown. Boy, these rollouts have been killing them back-to-back weeks, and they definitely hurt them in this game against Vancouver. Well scouted Emmanuel Blackman with the takeaway, and Vancouver pulls off the win 17-13. Arizona loses to another team with a losing record. So, Mike, is this a case of Vancouver's much better than their 4-7 record, or Arizona just keeps playing down?
I think it's a combination of both. It's really surprising to see Vancouver in the position that they are in, but as you mentioned, Arizona's they're making this a habit now. When teams are a lesser record, or we expect a lesser team than them, they seem to come up short. Every time they're in this situation, and if they're not. I think they're going to still get a bye, probably, because, like I said, one of these two teams tonight are going to get the 3 losses. But if some type of way a tiebreaker situation presents itself where they don't get a bye, they're going to be kicking themselves for that. I'm pretty sure in the playoffs.
And now think about this: if they do have a bye, for the first round, Eddie will have to sit on that loss for 3 weeks because he's got a bye in week 15, and then would have a bye in the first round, and then we'll be playing that quarterfinal home game, hoping to turn things around. Maybe that's a bad thing for his opponents, or maybe that's a good thing if Arizona kind of gets inside their head. Vancouver falls to 4-7. They do snap a 4-game losing streak, but in that losing streak, they lost games by 11, 7, 2, and 7, all to teams with winning records. They also lost to Canton and Carolina earlier this season. That is 6 losses to teams with winning records. It's been a tough schedule. Vancouver's been right there. For the Legion faithful out there, it was, I'm sure, a breath or a sigh of relief, rather, to finally get one against a high-quality opponent.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of the equation, right, Cam, that we were just speaking of. Are Arizona playing down, or Vancouver just coming up? Are they a better team than what they have shown? They're a solid team. They've always been a solid organization. I think the loss of Kendra Wells earlier in the season has really, hurt them probably in some key situations throughout the season, to where they hadn't, been able to take advantage of her talents, but. They've done a good job of hanging in. Andy's always going to be right there with his team, and I look forward to them bouncing back next season because I mentioned the newcomers being in the playoff picture this time of year, but it's very odd not seeing Vancouver there, and I'm looking forward to seeing them back next season.
Don't forget Mike Newtones, one of the highest graded offensive linemen in the league. He has been out for at least a month in Vancouver in the back half of this season, and so they have not had the strength up front that maybe they were expecting to start the season. We had a few games get away from us, and they didn't really factor into the playoff picture. Canton did clinch the North. All the divisions have been clinched, so there's no divisions up for grabs. In Week 15, they blank Queen City 30-0. Mike, Queen City had 3 first downs. I don't know what else to say. Although I do have some things to say. I don't have anything else to say about this game. Canton took care of business.
Canton took care of business, Cam. As I think we talked about it for a little bit last week. We didn't expect any surprises here, and of course, Canton, they just basically flexed their muscles the way they should have in this game. And Queen City, they are staring a no-win season in the face. They're going to have a pretty decent opportunity next weekend against Pittsburgh. To try to get that win and get off the schneid. And man, I don't know what Queen City is going to need to do next season, but rebuild is in order.
Everybody's saying wow in the chat, but I don't know why, so I'm just going to say it too. Wow, in my best Owen Wilson. So Canton gets the win. Okay, Queen City, this is what I would do. This is what I would do, Mike. You got to go find yourself in some front office dark room, and you got to say, why do players want to play for us? What makes us interesting? Like, what is the hook here? What culture are we trying to build? What kind of people are we trying to get into this locker? And then you have to go and be aggressive and sell yourself. You have to show people that things are going to get better, because right now it doesn't really look like things are going to get better. I mean, they have more players suspended each and every week. It's getting dark, man, and they have to go out and preach their goodwill. Otherwise, I don't know how they get out of this. I've never seen a team in a lower hole in SFL history than Queen City is right now. That's just honesty. I've been here for 12 years, and it's not good.
Well, a couple of things were kind of beyond their control. When I remember Stephen Hacker being over there, and then he was a part of the Fort Worth ownership group, and that part left, and then I remember Jeff Duffy being there. He left, but one key position, it doesn't seem like they have answered the question about since his retirement was Matt
AJ Caswell.
Caswell,
quarterback,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like they have, filled those shoes. He was a staple for this team, season in and season out, and I think it always starts there. If they can answer that question, maybe get some things pointed in the right direction, and as you mentioned, sit down in the front office and really identify some things that they need to focus on, and maybe they can get things turned back around.
And look, maybe that could be, hey, we can pay you whatever you want. We got money.
Right.
You can keep everything you got. You can be a $4.5 million man. We don't care. We got the cap space, and you're going to play. I mean, it didn't help that Adrian Ellis, their number one receiver on a thin receiving core, basically missed the whole season. I mean, you got to have people to throw to. I don't want to. I mean, I agree with you. It always starts at quarterback, but man, that's a tough road. But yeah, Queen City, they have opportunities here. We'll see what they can do with it. Los Angeles beats Pittsburgh 24-10 in probably one of the oddest, strangest ways to get to 24-10 ever. I believe it was 5 field goals, a touchdown, and a safety. that got LA to 24-10. But, Mike, they scored on their last 6 possessions. They moved the ball all night long, and honestly, I thought they looked pretty good. They're now 4-7. They host Albuquerque in Week 15 to try to play spoiler, and they're at home. I mean, the Lycans could get to 5-7. They have really not had that bad of a season.
And you talk about a team that's probably better than the record shows. I think it's Los Angeles. They, as you mentioned, they've hung around in games. They've looked better in some weeks than they have in others. But they've been pretty solid all season long. Sully Richardson, talking about quarterbacks, he's had a good season, but they protected him well. He's only been sacked, I know, going into this week 10 times on the season. So, yeah, LA, I know they're going to do some big things next season as far as changing stadiums and changing uniforms and pivoting a little bit in that direction. So some excitement is building over there in Los Angeles, and what better time to do it than right now.
But that's good. If I'm a player and I see, wow, we're retexturing everything. We're giving ourselves a fresh look and a fresh coat of paint, and we're really going for this thing. I'm really jacked up. They only lost 2 games this season by more than 14 points. They were pretty much in every game they played, and they have now won 2 in a row after sitting at 2-7. So wouldn't that be something if they won 3 straight and they got to 5-7? So that was. That was a couple of games that we do not have highlights for on the show that we just wanted to give some shout-outs. Pittsburgh's 1-10. They'll play Queen City next week on Friday for the number 1 pick in the draft. So, 0-11 versus 1-10 should be a great game, honestly, Mike.
Yeah.
They're very evenly matched, so I know that it means a lot to both of those teams. Queen City's coach was in the chat saying basically that, like, hey, we're planning for Pittsburgh. We're ready for Pittsburgh to try and go get our first win and get that goose egg on the board. So good luck to both of those teams next week. Albuquerque and Bossier City, the Steamers, who have really had a tough back end of this. I don't know what Ace Fennick's looking at. He started the season off really well, Mike, but this is basically the definition of what Bossier City's season has been, just costly interceptions.
Yeah, Cam, and it really surprises me what a quarterback that has the capability of Ace Fennick, some of the interceptions and throws that we've seen him make this season.
He does hit Dave Axis there to get first down and goal. The Diva saying, "Witness me," after that catch on a 3rd down and goal. Bossier City trying to punch it in and tie the game up. They would. Hunter McWaffle just walks it in. 7-7. Cyrus Jive hands it off to Jason Williams. He swan dives in as Albuquerque answers back. 14-7. Let's fast forward to the 3rd quarter, midway through the 3rd quarter, and Cyrus Jive is finding Greg Corky with the catch. I think Jive, if there was a most improved player in the league, maybe it's Cyrus Jive. He's had an unbelievable season for Albuquerque, and Williams punches it in once again here.
Yeah, Jason Williams again with a nice little power run right there. And yeah, Cyrus Jive has been incredible for Albuquerque all season.
Ace Fennick picked off in the back of the end zone, looking for Garrison Blue. That would have made it a 21-14 game late in the 3rd, but just more costly interceptions for Ace Fennick, and Albuquerque's defense has been very opportunistic in the back of this season. You saw the stats there, 266 to 178 in total yards, but there again in the end zone, Bossier City could not make a play. They end up settling for a field goal. They would make it 21-13 late in the 4th. Watch this, almost disaster for Albuquerque as this one is fielded off the bobble. That's Justin Williams, the fullback, pulls a rabbit out of his hat there and ends the game. Albuquerque is able to hold on and win by a final score of 24-13. So Albuquerque gets to 7-4, and we'll pull up the updated playoff picture to show you why that is relevant, because Albuquerque has a head-to-head sweep on Fort Worth and Charleston and has ascended to 7th in the standings. If the playoffs started today, it would be Albuquerque 7th in the standings, just behind Baltimore at 6. Now they have Los Angeles in the final week of the season, but man, oh man, when we looked at the schedule and they were 4-4, Mike, we said, look, this team could be 8-4 by the end of the season. They really don't have a difficult schedule down the stretch, but as we've seen a lot of teams do, losing to inferior talent down in the final weeks of the season, Albuquerque has not done that.
No, they have not, Cam, and to be honest with you, they're going to be favorite next weekend against Los Angeles, and I'm not expecting them to have a hiccup, so to speak, and I pretty much expect them to get to 8-4, and they are not a team that you, and I said this last week. I don't think this is a team that you want to see in the playoffs, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, Cam. You know, I'm in the Albuquerque Hall of Fame. I may have. I don't think I've mentioned that before, but anyway, I'm pretty sure
Thank
I have. But
goodness.
anyway,
Thank goodness. We all needed a reminder.
but
It's something else.
great team. The great team. They've done a fantastic job over there this season. And to be honest with you, we kind of didn't expect a lot from them coming into the season. We know what they were in the minor leagues and how successful they were there, but we didn't know if that was going to translate to the major leagues. And they were kind of short. We kind of felt like they were shorthanded going into the season roster wise, but they have done a fantastic job of coaching. The passing game has been excellent. Cyrus Jive, Greg Corky went over there and he's had a great season. Kay Marion has been solid over there, and we just saw the Williams brothers, the things that they could do. So man, congratulations to Albuquerque on a fantastic season, and I'm looking forward to see what they can do in the playoffs.
The winner of tonight's game will go into a tie with Mexico City for second place at 9-2. Arizona will temporarily move up to fourth at 9-3, and then the loser of Florida, Minnesota will drop into a tie with Baltimore for fifth and could potentially fall all the way back to sixth if it wasn't for the fact that Baltimore did not win their division. So the loser of this game will be in fifth. We just don't know who, Florida or Minnesota, and that game is coming up next. Kickoff about 8 minutes away. You see the bottom of the schedule or the standings there. Louisiana not mathematically eliminated. They are in 16th. Houston is 15. D.C. is 14 on common games. And there you see Carolina with that loss. They are right back into a problematic tiebreaker because they lost to both Atlanta and Nashville. And if the entire East Division wants to get into the playoffs, then they might all need to win. Lexington, that would be the only scenario in which Lexington could miss the playoffs is if all of them win. Now, Lexington's strength of victory is 338. That is not that great. That is not as good as Carolina's, Nashville's, or Atlanta's for that matter. So that is, Lexington could end up missing the playoffs if all three of those teams win. But like we said, Atlanta plays Florida and Nashville plays Mexico City, and the odds that happen are pretty low. But does anything else stand out to you 1 week with 1 week left in the season?
You pretty much covered it, Cam. But if it started today, I think that Baltimore and Atlanta matchup would be interesting. And also, since we kind of mentioned Arizona playing down. We obviously they wouldn't be in this particular spot if the season, once the season actually ends. As you mentioned, somebody's going to occupy that fifth spot tonight, the loser. But man, not necessarily taking anything away from Nashville, but they are the lesser seed. How would Arizona handle a matchup like that, playing a lesser seed the way that they've been playing against the lesser opponents this season? And then, man, looking at Charleston, they're right there sitting solid in that 9 spot. That'll be a tough matchup, in that pretty much a solid matchup in that first round against Fort Worth.
If you played the status quo game, Mike, I'm looking at Carolina beating Indy, Atlanta and Nashville losing, right? Lexington's still on bye, but Carolina does not have that tiebreaker with Lexington because Lexington just beat them. And so that would put Carolina in the 11th spot, and you could end up with a Baltimore-Carolina first-round matchup. And that certainly would be a draw that maybe Carolina would prefer since they have had Baltimore's number recently. Although it's hard to beat the same team twice in a season. So we have to consider that as well. So week 15, the schedule has been finalized and put in place. So we're going to read off some of those matchups to you now. On Friday night, Baltimore is going to take on Charleston. Right now, those are the current 6 and 9 seeds. Charleston is trying to essentially give themselves a home playoff game. They would like to get into that 5 through 8 range and get that game at home. Baltimore can get as high as 5 if Minnesota or Florida were to lose out. So they won't be able to get a first-round bye. Baltimore's either going to be the 5 or the 6. They don't have a ton to play for there outside of just getting a slightly better matchup in the opening round. So Charleston, a lot on the line there at home. Some notable games on Saturday. A bunch of 5 and 6 teams are going to be playing to try to stay alive. DC is at Fort Worth Saturday at 6:30. Houston is at Bossier City Saturday at 6:45. Louisiana hosts Motor City at 9. And then Minnesota plays Chicago in the nightcap, hoping to just take care of business. That game is in Chicago. On Sunday at 6:30, an isolated game. Atlanta is at Florida. It's a huge game for all those 5 and 6 teams that would love for another opportunity at a playoff spot. It's a huge game for Florida to try to secure a bye, especially if they were to fall tonight. And then potentially to still get the number 1 seed, fighting with Mexico City and Canton there at the top. Sunday night at 9 o'clock, a couple of teams that are chaos creators in this playoff bracket. You've got Indy at Carolina at 9, Albuquerque at LA at 9:15 on Sunday, October 20th. The reason why they could be chaos agents, Albuquerque at 7-4 has the worst strength of victory among 7-win teams, and Carolina has the best strength of victory among 6-win teams. So those teams winning or losing could dramatically impact the playoffs. They play Sunday night. And then our Monday night spectacular next week to cap off the season, Mike St. Green, Mexico City at Nashville. The Tempo trying to keep their playoff hopes alive, and Mexico City fighting with Canton and Florida and others and Minnesota for that number 1 spot. It's going to be a big game, and that is how we're going to end our season.
Yeah, it's going to be a great week. Obviously, I have a couple of games circled for next weekend, including the Houston and Bossier City game. I'm really curious to see how Carolina, how they do and finish up this season next weekend. Man, I seem like I'm here every season, Cam. I'm kind of root for Carolina. I want something to go good for this franchise. I mean, they're great people, great guys, and it always seems like we end up right here. So, kind of rooting for these guys to get there this season, and not just from a rooting standpoint, because I feel like they have a solid team that if they get in, it's going to be tough to handle the Skyhawks in the playoffs. And I definitely got the one next Monday night circled. That's going to be playoff implications if Houston were to get a win, and we're going to need some help from Mexico City and others to try to clinch a spot.
We've got Haynes Vision, but before we get to that, we've got Mike St. Green's Spectaculars for Week 14. What you got in this abbreviated week?
Who wore it best this weekend, Cam? None other than the Houston Headhunters. I hadn't seen that combination of uniform probably since week 1. I don't know why we hadn't worn that combination more than what we did this season, but it was refreshing to see it, and we performed well in it, and it was good to see. And then my spectacular for the week, it also comes from Houston. We saw him earlier. Big, huge touchdown to tie the game late. Israel Adams had a great second half, 8 catches for 137 yards and that huge game-tying touchdown. Israel Adams is your spectacular player of the week.
He was amazing. He stepped up big time, and I can't knock you too bad for the Houston bias, because you really haven't had any much this season.
No.
So you've reeled it in. You've held yourself in check, and you deserve a reward.
We only have one more week left, Cam. I have to get the Houston love in there some type of way.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to Haynes' Vision for this big-time matchup between not these teams. My goodness. I just tell the people more what you're thinking in the next 30 seconds.
I don't know. What am I thinking? First of all, this is going to be a great matchup tonight. I've really been looking forward to this matchup. Florida's defense has been great. I think they've only given up like 133 points on the season. Minnesota, they're well-rounded on offense, so they're going to be tested by this great Florida defense. Ron Cochran, he's been fantastic all season long with the short passing game, and both quarterbacks have actually. Ron Cochran's close to 70% completion rate, and Johnny Reno in his own right, he's close to 60% passing completion rate. So should be a great matchup.
Yeah, let's get to it. Haynes Vision, the Florida Storm are your visitors tonight. And Ron Cochran continues to exceed expectations. The efficiency of Florida's offense is something everyone's jealous of.
Yeah, most definitely. As you just saw right there, the graphic confirming the 69% completion percentage. And then when he needs to go somewhere, Stephen Bush comes up with a huge catch right there in the end zone.
Look at these graphs. Ron Haynes is feeling the Scorpion King Arizona uniforms this week. I mean, he's getting in the zone. Stephen Bush with a touchdown there. We just had Florida a couple weeks ago, so a lot of this feels similar to us. But, Art Vandelay continues to be their do-it-all threat. How they use him is always fascinating in each matchup.
Most definitely, Cam. He's definitely the Swiss Army knife of this team and really the entire SFL. When you need a play made, or when Florida needs a play made for sure, you're going to always look to Art Vandelay.
Chris Comisac, 50 rushing yards a game, 5 touchdowns. It's one of my favorite backfields in the league, Mike, because you just never really know what they're going to do, and that's very unique.
It's a great backfield, but just in looking at and researching this team a little bit, Cam, it's kind of a head scratcher. I would think that they would be getting more out of that backfield as far as yardage and production, but they're definitely solid.
Evan Carroll he's an all-timer. He is an incredible player, and it's tough to throw on these DBs on the outside. You really have to figure out how to beat Florida over the middle.
Yeah, you definitely have to do that, Cam. If not, if you can't beat them over the middle, you got to beat them on the ground. But you got always have Evan Carroll back there lurking in the passing game.
Ryan Davidson's on the other side, and he's like one of those lawyers. 4-for-4, 4-4-4-4. 4 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, 4 pass deflections. He just does it all.
Yeah, most definitely, and this is why they're the 2-time defending champions. These guys are ball hawks in the secondary. Ryan Davidson, he's a huge part of that.
Now, one of the reasons why it's difficult to beat this team over the middle is Juan Mississippi. They have a thin linebacking core, but an effective linebacking core plays like that.
And most definitely, Cameron. He's been a huge addition to the Florida Storm defense. And as you see, 43 tackles, 10 assists, 14 tackles for loss. He's been a huge addition to this great team.
Let's go over to Minnesota. The Minnesota Legend will host Florida for the first time ever tonight at Northwood Stadium. It starts with Johnny Reno, who's extremely dynamic, 15 touchdown passes.
15 touchdown passes, as I mentioned, almost 60% completion rate, close to a little over 2,000 yards passing. And then here he is, finds one of his targets, who is that, T the Queen, I think, with a huge catch.
Reno has the most talented receiving core on paper in the league. This team is full of talent, and they are difficult to stop. T. DeQueen is one of those weapons with 35 receptions. Deezer Powell is right behind her with 30 catches.
As you mentioned, this is the deepest and most diverse receiving core in the league. And if you don't have T. DeQueen, you have Deezer Powell.
Let's put it another way. If you were on this roster, you'd be on the bench. Colin Hart with Mike's not on camera, but I assure you he's laughing. Colin Hart is on your screen now. Number 1 in the league in rushing yards, 905. Just needs 95 more to have a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, 95 more, and he's going to cap a very solid season for Colin Hart. He had a kind of a down season last season, bounces back great this season, and he looks like he's going to hit that 1,000-yard plateau.
Matthew Alvarado, one of these players that just doesn't get talked about much in the league. He's kind of an unknown, terrific linebacker, goes unnoticed, 19 tackles for loss for this team.
Yeah, those that are paying attention, they notice him, Cam. I think we talked about Alvarado a few weeks ago, and he's been a solid player for Minnesota all season.
Now, Adrian Blaine came over from Florida, and he's been a great weapon for this Minnesota defense. But Adrian Blaine trying to get her first win against her former team because Florida's 2-0 all time.
And you think when you're looking at Minnesota, at least when I do, you don't think about the secondary being solid, but they have been fantastic in being ball hawks all season.
Nicholas Frosso has 5 picks, and remember, this is a rematch from last season's semifinal where the Florida Storm ended up getting to the championship to take on Canton and leaving Minnesota home. So the Legend really have an opportunity to make a statement here tonight against the 2-time defending champs, or will it be Florida getting the victory here tonight and sort of reasserting their dominance at the top of the standings? 30 seconds, Mike. Who is your pick tonight? This is a tough one.
The penultimate pick of the season. I'm 5-6. One of them, this pick can get me back to 500 with a chance for a winning record. I believe Minnesota is a slight favorite in this game, and I think I'm going to roll with Jack's data in this one. Minnesota is going to come away with a slight victory, a little payback, as you mentioned, for the semifinals in the playoff last season. It's going to be kind of low scoring, I believe. Minnesota in a tight one. Let's go with 17-13.
We will see just how talented Minnesota is tonight as they face their toughest test of the season against the Florida Storm. For Mike St. Green, I'm Cameron Irvine. This has been SFL This Week. We will see you next week for the finish to the season, and then it's on to the playoffs. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and me, Charles Doherty, and the rest of our Monday Night Spectacular crew will join you shortly from Northwood Stadium in St. Paul.